Hello, just a short one today. Chapter 12, 1943 to 1944. The United States entered the war in 1941 after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Shortly afterwards, in early 1942, the first American soldiers arrived in Britain. They were stationed at many bases all over the country, and in 1943, American soldiers were posted to the Ross-on-Wye area. The American servicemen were made welcome by the local people. Dorothy got to know a Sergeant Duda, who sometimes visited us in Graytree. He would bring gifts of food like Californian tinned peaches. Tinned peaches with tinned evaporated milk was considered a great treat, which everyone enjoyed because they had not been available for a long time. Sergeant Duda's name sounded like Duda, so I used to tease Dorothy by singing the song Camptown Races in a quiet voice because the last line of the chorus goes Doodah, Doodah Day. At Christmas, all the children in the area were invited to a big tea party given by the American soldiers at the US base a few miles out of town, and afterwards we were given a large bar of chocolate each. We only had a very small ration of sweets weekly during the war, even if you could find them in a shop, so the big bar of chocolate was a great treat. We didn't eat our chocolate for weeks because it was something to be treasured, and once it was gone we knew we would never have another one. One weekend, my mother came on the train to visit. I thought she had come just to see us, but she had a lot to discuss with Mrs. Warren. It had been a year and a half since we had seen our parents, and our mother looked tired and careworn despite her joy at seeing us after such a long time. I took her to the railway station to catch the train and wondered if we would ever be going home again. After we said goodbye, the walk back up the hill to Graytree on my own was a very sad one for me. I wondered if I would see my mother again. The war seemed never ending, and I knew that some of the evacuees had lost their parents in the bombing. Soon after, we found out why she had visited. My little brother Julian was going to join us in Graytree as an evacuee because the German bombers were bombing the Greater London area, including Kensal Rise. My parents left our home each night and went to Uxbridge, where they were safer staying with friends. And it would be easier for them if they did not have Julian with them, so he would come to stay with us until the bombing stopped. My mother took him to Paddington Station, and he was looked after by a lady who belonged to the WVS, the Women's Voluntary Service, the Women's Voluntary Service were ladies who gave their time to helping people in need during the war. They collected clothes for people who had been bombed, helping with evacuees, and made lots of sandwiches and cups of tea for people who had lost their homes. Mr. Warren met Julian and the WVS lady at Gloucester Station. Julian was a very good child and we were pleased to see him, but as he was too young to go to school, Mrs. Warren would have to look after him until we came home from school in the afternoons. Mr. Warren found an old wooden engine which his daughters had played with when they were children, and my brother played with that. Julian slept in a small bed in Dorothy's bedroom while my sister shared Dorothy's bed. It was a job fitting everyone in, but somehow they managed. Fortunately for Mrs. Warren, who now had us all to look after, my brother soon returned home when the bombing raids became less frequent. It seemed quite natural for Julian to return home, almost as if he had been sent to have a little holiday. It was sometimes quite easy to forget that the war was happening at all. We thought the fighting would soon be over and we would be going home again to join him. We were all very surprised one day when my father's sister Dot arrived for the weekend. We did not know Aunt Dot very well, but I was given the job of taking her to see some of the countryside. I took her to see a very famous beauty spot, Simon's Yacht, where the River Wye ran through a deep gorge, and also to see the ruins of Tintern Abbey. I discovered she had come to get to know us as our parents. Had made her our legal guardian should anything happen to them. It was a frightening thought, as I did not want to go to live with this aunt if something happened to my parents. I did not want to think about the idea of my parents being killed in the bombing, nor did I want her to be in charge of looking after us, because I did not know her very well at all. Thank you for listening, and join us tomorrow for Chapter 13.